burpee or something.
I love it.
I hope you're not sitting still while you listen. If you are, you better get a burpee break in.
When can I drop this thing?
You can't.
I can't drop it.
No, I mean for the rest of the trip, right? You're in San Francisco.
Is it?
Actually, what people don't realize when they get off the airplane, we hand them a kettlebell. Welcome to San Francisco.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome that we're connecting and sharing this stuff. I mean, you're verbalizing a lot of stuff I've been thinking about, and we've been thinking about at Spartan. I think it's coincidence that we're
No. Programming is not testing your ability to suffer. It's testing your ability to think of problems, problem solve,
while
plan.
under pressure.
That's right. Like, you know, I hammer on people in the gym when they write their reps. I'm like, what do you mean you can't count to 10 on the floor? Like, well, quit it. Be a piece of me. You need to know what's going on, especially if you're competing. Who's next to me? You don't get to go in the pain cave and look out through the straw. You need to be cognizant of who's around you, how much you're eating, what's happening, and that's going to take practice to be sort of cognitively aware.
I was in a race once and
fit and supple and
I just laid down for like
I really like, you know, he talked about
5 minutes.
So much of what we do is
Feeling tired.
motion, you know, whether it's squats, whether it's on
It's been a really stupid squat.
he said, that's cool that you're lifting weights, you want to be strong, but if you're flexible and strong, then you really got it knocked.
Yeah.
And not everybody gets that message.
Yeah.
He got my attention when he was talking about the sitting. And in no position, you know, that we're not built to sit.
Yeah.
And in no position is it good for you. So it's not only a question of sitting on a couch or laying down on a couch, those kinds of things, but just sitting in general. And of course, you know, the stand-up desk and that whole revolution, or sitting on the ball.
Yeah, I went to his house and they had no seats. We had dinner, we all had a squat.
I family standing.
No toilet bowl, got a squat.
That's better for you when you're going up and down in your head and you're letting all your blood circulate when it's flowing through. It's that type of stuff that keeps your blood clean, keeps
Burpees, the ultimate exercise, top to bottom, vertical, horizontal.
I'll keep doing it.
So Sapper finishes her 30 burpees. That's just gonna do. We're going to encourage you to go to SpartanUpPodcast.com. Learn more about Mobility Wall. There will be a link there to their site. Keep going.
You're a little slow now.
Because if you're a billionaire from watching all the other podcasts,
Exactly.
but you can't get up when you fall down, what good is it?
Doesn't get any good at all.
Find show notes, video, and audio from this episode at SpartanUpPodcast.com/055.
Thank you for listening to another epic story of success. Follow us on Twitter at SpartanUpPod.
But it's not great, you know, if you're into how you look, if you're more into aesthetics, not the best program. You know, a lot of these powerlifters, they're bigger, they're fat guys, they don't care what they look like, they're just after strength. So at the time, not that I wanted to be fat, and, you know, that's, you know, how fat you are has to do with your diet more than even how you're training, but that's a whole nother podcast. But, you know, I went into this workout trying to get stronger, and I did, but during the course of this workout, I was like, holy shit, like, everybody said this isn't the best program for hypertrophy or getting jacked. I was as jacked as I've ever been at that point in my life when I did that West Side system, and you know, I wasn't doing any bicep curls. I don't get those same gains. In fact, it's not even close to that first time. But then another, and I have a million examples. But so now, you know, I kind of trained with that system for the most part of the last, like I said, 20 years has been, you know, training in that fashion. When I moved last year, when we packed up the gym and moved to Texas, I didn't have a gym to train at. I was also traveling more than I ever traveled in my life. And, you know, in the beginning, I was, you know, I always tried to kind of, when I would travel, I would bring like my mini bands and my jungle gym that I use a lot with athletes. And he adapted to it, which is great. I wanted his body to adapt, and he's more mobile now, and he's healthier, and he has less pain. And, you know, again, the pure variety in the beginning helped him stay jacked, if not get even more jacked than he was. But now, you know, when he has a match coming up and he's like, listen, I need to look good in my underwear because I'm going to be, you know, wrestling in my underwear in front of a couple million people in a couple months. You know, I throw new things at him. Like, the first thing I make sure to do is with the accessory lifts, I try to come up with something completely different within the template that I prefer for him. You know, we still got to stay athletic and he's still got to be able to move. But with the accessory lifts, I always try to, change things up every 3 weeks because I need to keep his body guessing because I know over and over and over. And, so that is a major factor. I wanted to just mention that because I want to focus more on the physical factor on this podcast, the physical factors. So I wanted to make that little side note. I also wanted to make a side note because a lot of you are probably saying, well, you talk a lot about, the West Side Barbell Method, and Louis Simmons talks a lot about one of his methods for getting his powerlifters stronger is that they don't perform the lift that they're trying to improve. So, in other words, if they're trying to improve their bench press for a powerlifting meet, they don't just do traditional bench press. They'll do, if their triceps are a lagging muscle, they'll do board presses and rack lockouts and close grip bench presses with chains and all these different variations of the bench press to bring up their weak points. And then when they go back to benching, they're stronger because they brought up those weak points. So, you'll hear those terms where they'll say things like, oh, I got my bench press improved without even bench pressing, or my squat improved without ever squatting. That is definitely a system I've used and it works. But what a lot of times, people fail to mention is, like in Louis' example, he's doing that with powerlifters who are already technically proficient at the bench, the squat, and the deadlift. So, they're literally pros. They're so damn good at squatting technique, they could get away with not specifically squatting every week, doing a traditional barbell squat, and, still improving upon it. During the first, early years of training, and for most of you listening to this, it doesn't work that way. You need to become, a technical master at the lifts before you could start rotating things a lot. And, anybody who has our strength book and DVD knows, you see how we spent a ton of time just teaching you how to
3 sets each of those. It's more for like a pump. Train the main move for performance, whether it's strength, speed, or repetition. Train the second movement to increase that first movement, and then you train the third and or fourth exercises to help that secondary movement. So what'll get that secondary movement better for me is range of motion and hamstring strength, so I can sit back into my squat more without fucking falling over. So all I'm doing is high rep good mornings and lunges from a plate. Try and get the hips lower than the knee. And that is it. Probably do some simple core stuff after. And email gcalinoexcuses@gmail.com.